Welcome to the world of science fiction, where extraordinary tales come to life. Enjoy the journey. The landing ramp of the interstellar cruiser descended with a mechanical hiss, releasing a cloud of pressurized air into the atmosphere. Elias Thunderborn squinted against the sudden brightness, clutching a gift box wrapped in holographic paper. His grandmother's handwritten note was still attached to the top. "To my favorite grandson, waiting for you on Earth with pie and love." Elias adjusted his worn leather jacket and stepped onto the ramp, expecting to see his grandmother's familiar face among a small, welcoming committee, perhaps with balloons or a handmade sign. The corners of his mouth turned up at the thought of her famous blackberry pie. But as the mist cleared, his smile froze. "What the hell?" he muttered, blinking rapidly. Instead of the Earth spaceport he'd expected, a landscape of undulating pink mountains stretched to the horizon. The sky pulsed with rippling green bands that reminded him of Aurora Borealis, except they were 10 times brighter and moved like they were alive. And instead of his grandmother, a group of 6-legged purple creatures with waving antennae stood at the bottom of the ramp, chittering among themselves. "Grandma?" Elias whispered, his knuckles whitening around the gift box. "Did you, upgrade?" One of the loading crew approached, antenna vibrating. "Welcome to Orexia 5, most exclusive destination in the galaxy," it buzzed in a rapid cadence. Elias stepped back, nearly stumbling over his own feet. No, this is wrong. I'm supposed to be on Earth. Planet Earth. Solar System. Milky Way." The creature's compound eyes glittered. "Earth Transport Bay 17. This is Bay 71. 71? I was in 17. Elias frantically patted his pockets for his boarding pass. The digital slip confirmed his worst fears. Somehow the 1 inch in 17 inches had been changed to a 7. "This can't be happening. I need to get back on that ship." He turned, but the landing ramp was already retracting, the cruiser's engines powering up for departure. "Wait!" Elias shouted, waving his arms. "Stop! I'm on the wrong planet." His communicator beeped with an automated message. "Your delivery fee has been paid by the contract holder. Enjoy your stay, entity. Exotic 283. Exotic? I'm a human being, for fuck's sake." Elias spun around, searching for anyone who might help. "Where's the Earth Embassy?" His outburst drew attention. A group of tall, elegant, purple-skinned beings with luminescent markings stopped to stare. They were humanoid, unlike the loading crew, but their skin ranged from lavender to deep violet, and their eyes glowed with unnatural colors. "Look at how it moves!" exclaimed one female, her electric blue eyes widening. "The articulation is so realistic." "And the vocal projection," added another, pulling out a crystal-like device that Elias assumed was their version of a phone. "It actually sounds angry." "Oh, it's blinking, it's BLINKING, squealed a third, clapping her 4-fingered hands in delight. Elias ran a hand through his dark hair. "I'm not an it. I'm a human man. My name is Elias Thunderborn, and it knows names," the crowd gasped collectively. In her private chambers in the Imperial Palace of Orexia, Princess Celine Ashmore lounged on a hovering daybed, idly flicking through holographic projections of the latest exotic pet catalog. Her silver braids cascaded over one shoulder, contrasting with her violet skin that seemed to shimmer under the ambient lighting. Her bedroom was a testament to opulence. Crystal formations grew from the ceiling like stalactites, casting prismatic reflections across the polished stone floors. "Boring," she muttered, dismissing image after image with an elegant flick of her wrist. "I've had a cat, a merkosaur, a pseudo-dog. I'm so tired of the same old pets." Her loyal assistant, Vix, stood nearby with perfect posture. "Perhaps the breeding center has new stock, Your Highness? They never have anything truly wild." Celine sighed dramatically, her perfectly proportioned figure shifting as she rolled onto her back. I need something, with rebel eyes, something unpredictable. As if responding to her desires, the catalog projection shimmered and revealed a new listing. Exotic 283, warm-blooded, vocal, uncontrollable, guaranteed to cause emotional malfunction. Celine sat up, her electric blue eyes suddenly alert. She enlarged the projection, revealing a blurry image of what appeared to be a human male, a rarity on HFY. Is that a real Earth human? She breathed, tracing the outline of the figure with one slender finger. It appears so, Your Highness, Vix confirmed. They've become quite the collector's item since the embargo. Without hesitation, Celine tapped Add to Cart, her lips curving into a mischievous smile. Express delivery. Back at the spaceport, Elias was frantically trying to operate what he assumed was a public communication terminal. His attempts to reason with the locals had proven futile. They all treated him like some kind of advanced toy. Hello? Earth Emergency Services? This is Elias Thunderborn. I've been accidentally transported to, Orexia 5? I need immediate extraction. The terminal blinked uncomprehendingly, then displayed a message in an alien script that slowly translated to function unavailable to unregistered entities. Damn it! Elias slammed his fist against the terminal, drawing more fascinated stares from passers-by. Suddenly, he felt something small and metallic land on the top of his head. Before he could reach for it, a pleasant voice announced, "Tracking beacon activated. Prepare for collection." What tracking beacon? Elias reached up, finding a small disc attached to his scalp. Hey, get this! The floor beneath him abruptly disappeared. Elias plummeted through a luminous tunnel, his scream echoing as he fell. His stomach lurched into his throat, gift box still somehow clutched in his white-knuckled grip. With a heavy thud, he landed face first onto something soft and pink. Groaning, Elias pushed himself up onto his elbows, finding himself sprawled across a plush carpet that felt strangely alive, pulsing slightly beneath his weight. As he lifted his gaze, he found himself staring at a pair of delicate purple feet with perfectly formed toes, leading up to long, shapely legs. His eyes continued upward to find a vision standing before him, a violet-skinned woman with a figure that defied human proportions in the most appealing ways possible. Her silver braids framed a face of otherworldly beauty, dominated by electric blue eyes that seemed to glow from within. She wore only a silken robe that did very little to conceal her curves, casually open at the front as if modesty were an alien concept. You? She leaned closer, those brilliant eyes studying every detail of his face. You're even more beautiful than in the photos. Elias scrambled to his feet, maintaining a cautious distance. What photos? Who are you? Why are you looking at me like a teacher who just caught me cheating on a test? Her laugh was musical, sending an involuntary shiver down his spine. I am Celine. You belong to me now. She extended a hand, beckoning with long, elegant fingers. Come here, pet. Is this some kind of OnlyFans situation? Elias backed up until he hit a wall of what appeared to be living crystal. Look, there's been a huge mistake. I'm supposed to be on Earth visiting my grandmother, eating pie, not being someone's pet. Celine's brow furrowed in confusion. You speak quite well for an exotic. The catalog mentioned vocalization, but not conversation. Because I'm not an exotic, I'm a human being. He pointed to himself emphatically. Human, from Earth, with rights and everything. How fascinating. Celine circled him like a predator, her robe fluttering open with each movement, revealing flashes of purple skin that made Elias simultaneously uncomfortable and inexplicably intrigued. It's like you believe what you're saying. Because it's true. Elias threw his hands up in exasperation. Look, I don't know what's happening here, but I need to contact the Earth Embassy or consulate or whatever you have here. Celine tilted her head, silver braids catching the light. Earth has no diplomatic presence on Aurexia 5. We're quite exclusive. She reached out to touch his cheek and Elias jerked back. Oh, it's responsive to proximity. The sensitivity settings must be quite high. I am not an it. Elias sidestepped her and strode toward what he hoped was a door. I'm leaving now. Thanks for the whatever this was. The apparent door slid open before he reached it, revealing a massive chamber beyond. He stepped through, then froze. This wasn't an exit. It was an enormous bathroom with pools of iridescent liquid bubbling at various temperatures, strange crystalline fixtures, and walls that seemed to breathe. Celine appeared behind him, amusement dancing in her eyes. Where do you think you're going, pet? Stop calling me that. My name is Elias. Elias, she pronounced carefully, testing the sound. An interesting designation. I think I'll call you Els for short. You can call me whatever you want if you help me get back to Earth. Celine's smile faded slightly. But I just purchased you. The transfer was quite expensive. You can't purchase people. Elias ran his hands through his hair in frustration. That's slavery, and it's been illegal on Earth for centuries. How quaint. Celine waved her hand dismissively. On Aurexia, ownership is fluid. I own this palace wing, those crystal formations, and now you. It's all quite ethical by our standards. Before Elias could argue further, a panel on the wall chimed. Celine touched it and a holographic projection appeared, showing a purple-skinned woman with elaborate facial markings. Sister, the woman exclaimed, I see your new acquisition has arrived. Yes, thank you for finding him, Lyra. Celine glanced at Elias with a proprietary smile. He's even more vocal than advertised. Lyra's image laughed. Sister, you wanted a pet, but I got you something better, a real human. I told you it would be worth the extra credits. Wait, you're behind this? Elias stepped toward the projection. You had me diverted from my flight? Lyra's eyes widened. Oh, it addresses people directly. How delightfully impertinent. I'm not addressing you, I'm accusing you, Elias fumed. What gives you the right to intercept travelers and sell them like animals? It really thinks it's a person, Lyra said to Celine, ignoring Elias completely. The immersion programming is incredible. The catalog didn't exaggerate. Celine approached Elias with a contemplative expression. Let's test his other functions. The description mentioned something about emotional responses. I'm right here, Elias shouted. Stop talking about me like I'm not. See? Anger response activated, Lyra noted with clinical interest. Try affection next. Celine stepped closer to Elias, her electric blue eyes locking with his. She reached up and traced a finger along his jawline. You're very handsome for a human, she murmured. I wonder what happens when I do this. She leaned in, her silver braids brushing against his chest, and Elias felt his heart rate accelerate despite his indignation. Something about her touch sent an electric current through his skin, literally. He could feel a mild charge, like static electricity, but more focused, more deliberate. Stop that! He backed away, bumping into a crystal formation that hummed on contact. I'm not your toy. Fascinating defensive response, Lyra commented. Celine, I'll send over the care manual. Don't forget he needs to be fed Earth-compatible nutrients. The last human Princess Paula owned starved because she tried to feed it crystal nectar. Elias felt the blood drain from his face. The last human? How many of us have you people kidnapped? Oh, only the specially bred ones, Lyra replied casually. Earth has been restricted since the diplomatic incident of 2342, but we have arrangements with certain suppliers. I wasn't bred. I was born, to parents, on Earth. Elias slammed his fist against the wall, wincing at the impact. I need to contact someone who will listen to me. Celine dismissed her sister's projection with a wave. He's quite agitated. Perhaps he needs sustenance. She glided to another panel and pressed a sequence. A compartment opened in the wall, revealing what looked like food, though nothing Elias recognized. There was a gelatinous cube that pulsated slightly, something that resembled blue pasta but moved like it was alive, and a beverage that glowed with an internal light source. "Eat," Celine commanded, pointing to the spread. "The manual says humans require regular fuel." Elias approached cautiously and sniffed the offerings. The smell hit him like a physical force, something between burnt rubber and chemical preservatives. "This looks like a rubber cheesecake soaked in motor oil," he muttered, poking the gelatinous cube with a finger. It jiggled ominously. "I can't eat this." "You must," Celine insisted. "It's specially formulated for human consumption." Reluctantly, Elias took a small bite of the least threatening item. His face contorted immediately, and he spat it out, coughing violently. "That's disgusting. It tastes like someone liquefied a tire and added sugar." Celine observed his reaction with scientific interest. "Negative food response noted. Perhaps I need to adjust the flavor matrix." "Or maybe," Elias suggested between coughs, "you could recognize that I'm an actual person who accidentally got on the wrong flight and helped me contact Earth?" Before Celine could respond, another chime sounded. She touched the panel again, revealing a severe-looking purple being with extensive facial decorations and an official-looking uniform. "Princess Celine," the being intoned. "I am Inspector Vorak from the Exotic Species Regulation Bureau. We've been notified of your new acquisition and must conduct the standard evaluation before you can be issued a permanent ownership certificate." "Of course, Inspector," Celine replied smoothly. "When shall I expect you?" "I'm already in the palace. I'll be at your chambers momentarily." The projection disappeared, and Celine turned to Elias with sudden urgency. "You must behave properly. Inspector Vorak has the authority to confiscate unauthorized exotics." "Good. Maybe he'll listen to reason and help me get home." Elias straightened his jacket, smoothing his rumpled appearance as best he could. Celine seized his arm, her grip surprisingly strong. "No, you don't understand. If he determines you're unsuitable or unregistered, you'll be terminated." The word hung in the air between them. "Terminated?" Elias repeated, his voice dropping to a whisper. "As in, disassembled for parts," Celine clarified with clinical detachment. "Exotic organics fetch a high price on the medical market." Before Elias could process this horrifying revelation, the main door slid open, revealing Inspector Vorak in all his bureaucratic glory. The inspector swept into the room with an air of officious importance, antenna vibrating with authority. "Princess Celine," Vorak greeted with a shallow bow, "let's examine your new acquisition." The next 30 minutes were the most degrading of Elias's life. Vorak circled him, scanning him with various devices, measuring his dimensions and even checking his teeth, all while discussing him in the third person as if he were a particularly interesting furniture piece. "Remarkable specimen," Vorak noted, making entries on a crystalline tablet. "Earth-origin bipeds are quite rare since the embargo. How did you procure it?" "My sister has connections," Celine replied vaguely, watching the proceedings with apparent fascination. "I'm standing right here," Elias interjected, "and I can explain exactly how I got here. I boarded the wrong flight. This is all a huge mistake." Vorak's antennae twitched with surprise. "It speaks in coherent sentences, most unusual." "I'm not an it." Elias's frustration boiled over. "I'm a human being named Elias Thunderborn from Earth. I have rights, damn it." Vorak turned to Celine with sudden suspicion. "Princess, this isn't a standard exotic. This appears to be a sentient class entity. Those require special permits, quantum bonding procedures, and an entirely different tax bracket." Celine's composure faltered. Wasn't aware. My sister assured me, if this is indeed a sentient class entity without proper documentation, Vorak continued, reaching for something on his belt that looked alarmingly like a weapon, I'll have to take it into custody for evaluation and possible reclamation. Elias saw his chance slipping away. If this bureaucratic alien took him for evaluation, who knew what would happen? At least with Celine, he hadn't been dissected. Yet, as Vorak raised his scanner toward Elias's head, Celine began an emotional tirade. "Inspector, I assure you this is a simple misunderstanding. My sister would never knowingly violate importation protocols. Surely we can resolve this without—" In a moment of desperate inspiration, Elias did the only thing he could think of to prove his sentience and stop her nervous babbling. He grabbed Celine by the shoulders, pulled her close, and kissed her firmly on the lips. The room went silent. Vorak's scanner clattered to the floor. Celine froze in his arms, her electric blue eyes wide with shock. Then, an alarm blared throughout the palace, red lights flashing from hidden panels. A mechanical voice announced, "Pet initiates contact with owner. Code, critical biosynchronization." Elias released Celine, who staggered back a step, touching her lips with trembling fingers. "What?" she whispered. "Did you just do?" The crimson alarm lights still flashed throughout the palace as security personnel swarmed into Celine's chambers. The mechanical voice continued blaring. "Critical biosynchronization detected. Containment protocol activated." Inspector Vorak recovered his composure first, snatching up his fallen scanner and backing away from Elias as if he carried a contagious disease. "This is unprecedented. A pet initiating intimate contact with its owner violates all established hierarchies." Elias stood his ground, heart hammering in his chest. The kiss had been a desperate move, but he hadn't expected it to trigger a palace-wide emergency. "Princess Celine," Vorak's voice hardened as he addressed her, "your exotic will be classified as potentially dangerous and entered into the special containment registry. I recommend immediate isolation until a full evaluation can be conducted." "He's not dangerous," Celine replied, her voice surprisingly steady despite the chaos around them. She touched her lips again, the electric blue of her eyes intensifying. "He's different." 4 security guards surrounded Elias, pointing crystalline weapons at his chest. Their violet skin gleamed under the pulsing red lights, facial markings identifying them as elite palace protection. "Wait," Elias raised his hand slowly. "I can explain everything." "Silence, exotic," barked the lead guard, a burly Orexian with elaborate facial markings. "You will be contained and processed according to protocol." Celine stepped forward. "As the legal owner, I demand to accompany my property during processing." Vorak's antennae twitched with reluctant agreement. "That is your right, princess, but I must insist on full security measures." Within minutes, Elias found himself marched through the ornate corridors of the palace, flanked by guards and followed by Celine and the inspector. The palace residents they passed stared openly, whispering behind their hands. Several took out crystal-like devices and captured images of the procession. "I'm going viral on alien Instagram," Elias muttered. "Fantastic." "What is Instagram?" Celine asked, keeping pace beside him. "Earth social media, like your crystal phones but with more cat videos and fewer alien abductions." One of the guards jabbed him with the butt of his weapon. "No communication with the owner without permission." They arrived at a sleek, clinical-looking building connected to the palace by a crystalline bridge. The sign above the entrance translated in Elias's mind as Center for Return of Sentient Species. "Return?" Elias brightened. "That sounds promising. Maybe they'll actually help me get home." Celine cast him a worried glance but remained silent. The interior resembled a cross between a high-tech veterinary clinic and a prison intake facility. Transparent walls separated different processing areas, where Elias could see various exotic creatures being examined, tagged, and documented. A stern-faced Orexian female in a white uniform approached them. "Princess Celine," she acknowledged with a bow. "Inspector Vorak informed us of your situation. I am Administrator Kix, head of processing." "This is all a misunderstanding," Celine began. "My exotic simply initiated intimate contact without permission," Kix finished, her tone clinical. "A Level 3 violation of the Exotic Management Code, Section 47.2. Elias stepped forward. "I have a name. It's Elias Thunderborn, and I'm a human being from Earth who got on the wrong flight. This entire situation is fascinating vocalization patterns," Kix interrupted, making notes on a crystal tablet. "Quite convincing anthropomorphic projection." "I'm not projecting anything." Elias slammed his palm against the transparent barrier separating them. "I am an actual person." Kix turned to Celine, ignoring him completely. "We'll need to process the exotic through standard procedures. As owner, you may observe but not interfere." The next 3 hours were the most dehumanizing of Elias's life. He was scanned, prodded, measured, and documented like livestock. They took samples of his hair, skin, and blood while discussing his physiology as if he were a particularly interesting specimen in a laboratory. Finally, Administrator Kix created an official file, projecting it for all to see. Species, human, Earth origin, sex, male, behavior, flirtatious, special characteristics, refuses to be domesticated, threat level, moderate, ownership, Princess Celine Ashmore, registered. "This is absurd," Elias protested, pulling on the tracking bracelet they had attached to his wrist. "I'm a sentient being with rights." "The exotic continues to display advanced vocalization," Kix noted casually, "quite convincing mimicry of sentience." "It's not mimicry." Elias turned to Celine in desperation. "Tell them. You know I'm sentient." Celine stepped forward, her expression conflicted. "Administrator, isn't it possible that Earth humans possess actual sentience? He reasons, he communicates, he—" "Princess," Kix interrupted gently, "you've been affected by the biosynchronization event. It's common for owners to anthropomorphize their exotics, especially after intimate contact. The biochemical reactions can create powerful, empathic illusions." "This is no illusion," Elias insisted. Kix continued as if he hadn't spoken. "If we classified this creature as sentient, it would require a complete overhaul of our biological taxonomy system. Thousands of regulations would need revision. Trade agreements would collapse. The economic implications alone. So I'm stuck as a pet because it would be too much paperwork to recognize me as a person." Elias threw his hands up in exasperation. "Precisely," Kix confirmed, missing the sarcasm entirely. "Princess Celine, your exotic is now officially registered in your name. The tracking bracelet will monitor its vital signs and location. Should it attempt to leave your designated zones, an automatic retrieval will be initiated." "And if I try to help him get home?" Celine asked quietly. Kix's expression hardened. "Illegal export of registered exotics carries a minimum penalty of 50 cycles in the crystalline mines, princess or not." As they exited the processing center, Elias felt utterly defeated. The bureaucratic machine of Orexia had categorized and contained him more effectively than any physical cage could have. "I'm sorry," Celine said once they were alone in her private transport pod, gliding back toward the palace. "The system is rigid. Your entire planet is insane." Elias slumped against the cushioned seat. "Where I come from, keeping sentient beings as pets went out of fashion centuries ago." "Perhaps Earth is more evolved in some ways," Celine admitted, studying him with those electric blue eyes that seemed to penetrate his very being. "But you must understand, Most exotics brought to Aurexia truly are non-sentient. Our system wasn't designed to handle exceptions. Lucky me. Elias gazed out at the pink mountains and green-streaked sky, trapped in a beautiful nightmare. Back in Celine's chambers, things had changed. The security presence had doubled, and Elias noticed subtle alterations to the room. A new sleeping pod that was clearly meant for him, monitoring devices installed in discrete locations, and what appeared to be a force field generator near the main exit. "Your cage is nicer than most," he remarked bitterly. "It's not a cage," Celine insisted, dismissing the guards with a wave. When the doors closed behind them, she turned to Elias with unexpected vulnerability in her expression. "Look, I didn't know you were sentient when I purchased you. My sister just said she found something special. And you didn't think to question the ethics of owning another intelligent being. We were taught that humans are advanced biological constructs," she explained, pacing the room, "created for entertainment and companionship like all exotics." Elias laughed without humor. "Created? We evolved over millions of years. We have art, science, philosophy. So I'm discovering." Celine sat on the edge of her hovering daybed, silver braids falling forward as she lowered her head. "That kiss, it did something to me. I haven't slept properly since it happened." "Join the club. Being kidnapped and classified as livestock tends to disrupt my sleep cycle too." Her electric blue eyes flashed with irritation. "I'm trying to apologize. Try harder." Elias crossed his arms, leaning against a crystal formation. Celine stood abruptly. "Fine. If you won't accept my apology, perhaps you'll accept my help instead. I've been researching human care. I don't need care. I need a spaceship back to Earth." "Which you cannot have right now," she snapped. "So in the meantime, I'm trying to make your stay less degrading." They glared at each other in tense silence until Celine's expression softened slightly. "Let's start again," she suggested. "No owner, no pet. Just two intelligent beings trying to navigate a difficult situation." Elias hesitated, then nodded reluctantly. "Fine, but I'm not sitting on that cushion by your feet. Actually," she pointed to the hovering daybed, "I had that expanded for you. Equal elevation." It was a small gesture, but significant. Elias felt something inside him unclench slightly. "Thank you." Over the next few days, they established an uneasy truce. Celine brought him proper human-compatible food, still strange but at least edible, provided suitable clothing, and even allowed him access to Aurexian literature and history through a translation device. One evening, as they sat in her private garden beneath the green-streaked sky, Celine attempted her first training session. "Sit," she commanded, pointing to a cushion beside her. Elias raised an eyebrow. "I'm not a dog." A mischievous smile played across her violet lips. "I know. Your tongue is longer." The unexpected flirtation caught him off guard. Was she teasing him? "Are you trying to train me or seduce me? Because your techniques need work either way." "Perhaps both." Her electric blue eyes sparkled with challenge. "Is it working?" "Definitely not," he lied, ignoring the warmth spreading through his chest. Elias spotted a bowl of strawberry-like fruits nearby, a luxury import from another system that Celine had ordered specifically for him after learning humans couldn't digest local produce. With deliberate movements, he selected the ripest one, maintaining eye contact as he bit into it slowly, letting the juice run down his chin in a way that was both messy and oddly sensual. "What are you doing?" Celine asked, her voice suddenly breathless. "Demonstrating nourishment through contact," he said casually, wiping his chin with his thumb, then licking it clean. "Very educational." Celine sat frozen, her violet skin flushing a deeper shade of amethyst. "Is that how they teach intimacy on Earth?" "No," Elias replied with a perfectly innocent smile. "That was part of my school course on strawberry field maintenance." Her laugh, spontaneous and genuine, transformed her face completely, and for a moment Elias forgot she was an alien princess who technically owned him. She was just a woman, amused by his ridiculousness, her silver braids catching the last light of the setting sun. "You are a dangerous creature, Elias Thunderborn," she said when her laughter subsided, "so your registry claims." The moment was interrupted by a palace attendant announcing that the princess was expected at a formal garden reception in 30 minutes. "You'll accompany me," she decided suddenly. "As what? Your exotic pet on display?" "As my companion," she amended. "It's time you saw more of Aurexia than just these chambers." The royal gardens were a breathtaking display of alien horticulture, crystal formations that grew like trees, flowering plants that changed color with the mood of nearby beings, and floating orbs of water that contained miniature ecosystems. The assembled Aurexian nobility stared openly as Celine entered with Elias at her side. He heard the whispers, saw the shocked expressions and disapproving glares. But Celine walked with perfect composure, nodding graciously to those who bowed. Princess Celine, a pompous-looking official approached them, eyeing Elias with undisguised disgust. "How progressive of you to bring your exotic to a formal function." "Minister Thrax," she acknowledged coolly. "My companion enjoys botanical displays. I saw no reason to deprive him of the experience." "Companion?" Thrax's antennae twitched with disapproval. "The registry clearly classifies it as him," Celine corrected sharply, "and I choose how to address those in my company." The minister retreated, muttering about royal eccentricity, while Elias gave Celine a grateful nod. As they strolled through the gardens, Elias became increasingly aware of the stares they attracted. Young Aurexian females in particular seemed fascinated, giggling behind their hands and taking surreptitious images with their crystal devices. At one point, they paused beside a pool of luminescent liquid where exotic fish-like creatures performed a synchronized dance. Without thinking, Elias reached for Celine's hand to draw her attention to a particularly beautiful specimen. The reaction was immediate and overwhelming. Gasps erupted around them. An elderly Aurexian female actually fainted. Someone dropped a crystal goblet that shattered musically across the stone pathway. "What?" Elias whispered to Celine. "What did I do?" Her face had turned deep purple with what he now recognized as a blush. Hand-touching in public it's considered extremely intimate on Aurexia, almost equivalent to a marriage proposal. "Oh." He attempted to withdraw his hand, but Celine held it firmly. "Let them talk," she whispered, her electric blue eyes challenging the onlookers. By morning, the incident had gone viral across Aurexian social networks. Celine showed him the trending topics on her crystal tablet. Hashtag Human Hold My Hand topped the list, followed by hashtag Exotic Love and hashtag Princess Rebellion. "I've started a movement," Elias said incredulously, scrolling through thousands of comments and images. "Young Aurexians are demanding human companions of their own." "You've disrupted centuries of social convention in one evening," Celine confirmed, a mixture of amusement and concern in her voice. "The elders are in emergency session and my mother has requested an immediate audience." "Your mother? The Empress?" Elias felt a chill run down his spine. "Don't worry. She's actually quite progressive for—" Celine suddenly clutched her abdomen, doubling over with a gasp. "What's wrong?" Elias rushed to her side. It's nothing." She straightened, but her violet skin had paled to a lavender hue. "Just a normal biological cycle. I need to take my suppressants." She moved to a cabinet and removed a crystal vial filled with glowing blue liquid. Her hands trembled as she attempted to open it. "Here, let me," Elias offered, taking the vial. As their fingers brushed, Celine let out a small whimper that was definitely not pain. "Your touch," she whispered, electric blue eyes dilating dramatically. It triggers reactions. What kind of reactions? Elias asked, suddenly very aware of their proximity. My biocycle, she explained, stepping back and wrapping her arms around herself. It's a period when Orexian females seek compatible mates. The suppressants usually control it, but they've been less effective since you arrived. Is that why you've been looking at me like I'm the last strawberry in the universe? A small smile played across her lips despite her obvious discomfort. Perhaps. She took the vial from him and swallowed its contents, grimacing at the taste. I need to go. I'm losing form. Is that a joke, or are you about to turn into a cat? Elias asked, genuinely confused. Instead of answering, Celine lunged forward with inhuman speed, pinning him against the wall. Her pupils had expanded until her eyes were almost entirely black, with just a thin electric blue ring around the edges. Celine? He whispered, heart pounding as her face came within inches of his. The suppressants aren't working, she murmured, her voice deeper, almost hypnotic. You've triggered something in me, Elias Thunderborn, something ancient and powerful. The room began to fill with a soft pink light that seemed to emanate from Celine herself. The air thickened, becoming charged with an energy that made Elias's skin tingle. The space around them appeared to warp and bend, as if reality itself was melting under the heat of whatever was happening between them. When their lips met this time, it wasn't a desperate act or a power play. It was pure, elemental attraction. Elias felt as if he was kissing lightning, the contact sending electric currents through every nerve in his body. Celine's silver braids wrapped around his wrists like living things, binding them together as the pink light intensified. Hours later, or perhaps it was minutes, time had lost all meaning. They lay entwined in a floating suspension field that had replaced her bed. The pink glow had subsided, leaving only the normal ambient light of her chambers. That was... Elias struggled to find appropriate words. Unprecedented, Celine supplied, tracing patterns on his chest with a slender, purple finger. No Orexian has ever synchronized with a human before. Elias propped himself up on one elbow. Synchronized? A complete bioenergetic melding, she explained. It's extremely rare even between compatible Orexians. With an exotic, it should have been impossible. He smiled crookedly. I specialize in impossible. Celine's expression turned serious. Elias, there's something I need to tell you. You weren't brought here by accident. What do you mean? My sister didn't just randomly find you for me because I like cute creatures, she admitted, sitting up and wrapping a shimmering sheet around her violet form. She specifically selected you. Elias felt a cold weight settle in his stomach. Selected me for what? Before she could answer, the chamber doors burst open. A squad of heavily armed guards swarmed in, led by a regal Orexian male in ornate ceremonial armor. Princess Celine, the leader announced formally, by order of the Imperial Advisory Council, your exotic is to be detained for biological subversion and interference with royal lineage. What? Celine leapt up, her normally perfect composure shattered. On what grounds? The creature has introduced foreign biological elements into the royal bloodline, the commander stated flatly. The council's chief science advisor demands immediate testing and possible neutralization. As the guards moved to seize him, Elias made a split-second decision. If they were going to treat him like an animal, he'd give them something to remember. Wait, he said, standing tall despite his nakedness. Before you take me, Celine should know the truth. She turned to him, confusion written across her features. Everything that happened until now, I've been following a meticulously calculated plan, he declared with sudden authority. I think it's stupid to hide it anymore. I am a galactic officer of the highest class. They call me the Order Enforcer. I'm feared across many star systems. The guards hesitated, exchanging uncertain glances. I'm here on assignment from the Central Bureau for Investigation of Crimes Against Sentient Species, Elias continued, his voice dropping to a dangerous register. And what I've uncovered here on Orexia is enough for several life sentences. He's delusional, the commander scoffed, though less confidently. Elias locked eyes with Celine, willing her to understand the gambit. But since Celine has begun to realize her error, and since she's beautiful, and since I may have fallen for her, perhaps the punishment procedures and changes to local customs could be slightly more lenient. Before Celine could respond, the guards surged forward, restraining Elias with energy cuffs. The doors slammed shut behind them, leaving Celine alone in the suddenly empty chamber, the lingering pink glow the only evidence of what they had shared. "You're making a massive mistake," Elias said as the guards shoved him along the crystalline corridor. His energy cuffs dug into his wrists, sending painful tingles up his arms. "I'm actually a Galactic officer on duty. The longer you keep me, the worse it'll be for everyone involved." The guard captain snorted, his purple face contorting with disdain. All exotics develop delusions of grandeur eventually. The chief science advisor will correct that shortly. They marched him through a series of increasingly secure checkpoints, descending deep beneath the palace. The beautiful architecture gradually gave way to utilitarian design, sterile white walls, harsh lighting, and transparent holding cells where various exotic creatures paced restlessly. "My grandmother is going to be really pissed about this," Elias muttered. "Silence." The captain shoved him roughly. "Save your vocalizations for the procedure." The central plaza of the imperial city buzzed with activity as crowds gathered for the unscheduled public event. Hovering platforms carried Orexian nobility to prime viewing positions, while commoners jostled for standing space below. Crystalline screens floated above the gathering, displaying the imperial crest. At the center of the plaza stood a raised platform with an ominous machine, a transparent chamber connected to various tubes and instruments that pulsed with energy. Elias stood on the platform in a white jumpsuit, his hands still bound by energy cuffs. Guards formed a perimeter around him, weapons at the ready. His expression remained defiant, even as Chief Science Advisor Zorn addressed the crowd. "Citizens of Orexia," Zorn's amplified voice echoed across the plaza, "what you are about to witness is the neutralization of a dangerous biological contaminant. This exotic specimen has violated multiple regulations by initiating unauthorized contact with a member of the royal house, potentially compromising the purity of our genetic lineage." The crowd murmured, many recording the proceedings on their crystal devices. "The process will extract relevant biological data for scientific study before the specimen is decomposed into base elements," Zorn continued clinically. "This serves as a reminder that proper exotic management is essential to planetary security." As guards moved to escort Elias toward the chamber, a commotion erupted at the edge of the crowd. A hooded figure burst through the security line, moving with incredible agility. The figure vaulted onto the platform, knocking aside two startled guards. "Stop this madness!" The hood fell back to reveal Celine's face, flushed deep violet with fury. Her electric blue eyes blazed as she positioned herself between Elias and the guards. "This execution is unauthorized and immoral." Gasps rippled through the audience. Imperial guards quickly surrounded the princess, but hesitated to touch her. "Princess Celine," Zorn recovered first, his voice tight with barely controlled rage. "Your presence here is inappropriate, and your interference is noted as further evidence of the exotic's harmful influence." "His name is Elias Thunderborn," she announced, her voice carrying across the silent plaza. "And he is not property. He is a sentient being with rights equal to any Orexian." The crowd erupted in a mixture of outrage and excitement. Especially among the younger Orexians, Celine's declaration seemed to ignite something. Crystal devices captured every moment as guards finally moved to restrain the princess. "Take her to the medical wing for evaluation," Zorn ordered. "The biosynchronization has clearly affected her reasoning." As they grabbed Celine's arms, the sky darkened suddenly. Massive shadows fell across the plaza as enormous ships materialized in the atmosphere above. The Imperial alarms blared, but it was already too late. The ships had bypassed all defensive systems. The largest vessel positioned itself directly over the execution platform, its hull bearing an insignia Elias recognized instantly. A broad grin spread across his face. "What are you smiling about, exotic?" Zorn demanded, his composure cracking. "I told you my grandmother would be pissed," Elias replied. A blinding column of light shot down from the ship, materializing a squad of armored soldiers on the platform. Their sleek, advanced weaponry made the Imperial Guard's crystalline spears look like children's toys. At their center stood a diminutive but imposing woman with steel-gray hair pulled into a tight bun, wearing a commander's uniform adorned with so many medals it seemed miraculous she could stand upright. "Grandma!" Elias called cheerfully. "For heaven's sake, Elias," the woman replied, her voice carrying the weight of decades of command. "I send you to deliver a birthday gift, and you start an interplanetary incident." She turned to address the terrified officials. "I am General Vivian Thunderborn, Central Bureau for Investigation of Crimes Against Sentient Species. This planet is now under Bureau jurisdiction pending a full investigation of systematic rights violations against sentient beings." Zorn attempted to regain control. "This is an outrageous violation of Orexian sovereignty. We have treaties that explicitly forbid the trafficking and ownership of sentient species." General Thunderborn cut him off. "Treaties your planet has violated approximately," she checked her wrist device, 17,843 times in the past standard year alone. The Imperial Guards wisely lowered their weapons as more Bureau agents materialized around the plaza. Elias's energy cuffs deactivated with a flick of his grandmother's hand. "Thanks, Granny," he grinned, rubbing his wrists. "Sorry about missing your birthday." "You'll make it up to me," she replied, before turning her attention to Celine, who stood frozen in shock. "And this must be the young lady who purchased my grandson." Celine paled to a light lavender. "General, I saved my life," Elias interrupted, moving to stand beside Celine. "She risked everything to protect me once she understood the truth." General Thunderborn studied Celine with piercing eyes that mirrored her grandson's. "Is that so?" "Yes," Celine stated firmly, finding her courage. "Our system is wrong. I was wrong, and I'm willing to accept whatever consequences come with that admission." The general's stern expression softened imperceptibly. Well, I suppose we'll need local leadership to help implement the necessary reforms." 3 months later, Orexia was almost unrecognizable. The Bureau's presence had transformed the planet's governance, with sweeping changes to laws regarding sentient rights. Under the watchful eye of General Thunderborn, whom the locals had taken to calling the Iron Grandmother, the exotic pet trade had been dismantled and replaced with legitimate cultural exchange programs. Elias and Celine emerged from the newly established Earth Orexian Embassy, where they had just finished another round of diplomatic meetings. Despite the formal nature of their work, they couldn't keep their hands off each other, much to the delight of the young Orexians who followed their every move on social media. "You realize we've become celebrities," Elias noted as another group of young Orexian females requested images with them. The hashtag #HumanHoldMyHand had evolved into a galactic movement, with millions of interspecies couples publicly emulating their relationship. "It's your fault for starting a revolution with a kiss," Celine replied, her electric blue eyes twinkling. She had adapted to Earth fashion, wearing a stylish combination of human and Aurexian designs that had sparked yet another trend. They strolled through the imperial gardens, now open to all citizens. The crystal trees sparkled in the sunlight, and floating water orbs created rainbow patterns across the pathways. "Have you seen the trailer for the new holofilm?" Elias asked, pulling out his modified crystal tablet. "Not another one," Celine groaned, but leaned in to watch. The projection showed dramatic recreations of their story. The hand-holding scene in the garden amplified to operatic proportions, the execution platform sequence featuring impossible acrobatics from the actress playing Celine, and the arrival of General Thunderborn portrayed with such gravitas that even the real Iron Grandmother had laughed when she saw it. "The Earth Prince and the Star Princess." Elias read the title with mock solemnity. "They're calling it the modern Titanic." "What's a Titanic?" "Ancient Earth tragedy. Ship hits ice, everyone dies, audiences cry for a century." "But we didn't die," Celine pointed out. "Never let facts interfere with profitable entertainment," Elias quoted his new agent, who was currently negotiating merchandise deals that had already made him wealthy beyond imagination. The action figures were particularly popular, especially the limited edition set featuring Celine in her rescue outfit and Elias in his execution jumpsuit. As they rounded a corner, they encountered General Thunderborn conducting an inspection of the Bureau's headquarters. "Grandmother," Elias greeted her with a respectful nod that failed to hide his affection. "Lieutenant Thunderborn," she acknowledged formally, before her professional demeanor cracked slightly. "Celine, dear, are you joining us for dinner tonight? I've managed to import actual Earth ingredients for a proper roast." "I wouldn't miss it," Celine replied warmly. The general had surprised everyone with how quickly she'd taken to Celine, treating her with a combination of military respect and grandmotherly affection that had initially terrified the Aurexian princess, but had since evolved into genuine fondness. "Excellent. Oh, and Elias, the new campaign launches tomorrow." The general's eyes glinted with pride. "The response has been overwhelming." She referred to the Galactic initiative she had personally spearheaded. "Every human is valuable, especially if they're my grandson." What had begun as a quip during a press conference had evolved into the galaxy's largest rescue operation for trafficked Earth humans. "How many have you found so far?" Celine asked. 2,718, the general replied precisely, each with their own story of how they ended up classified as exotics. The Bureau has allocated unprecedented resources to their recovery and rehabilitation. After the general continued on her inspection, Elias led Celine to a secluded section of the garden, a small Earth-style gazebo surrounded by transplanted roses, which thrived surprisingly well in Aurexia's soil. "I have something for you," he said, suddenly serious. "A human tradition." From his pocket he produced a small box containing a ring, a band of Aurexian crystal wrapped around a small Earth diamond. "On Earth, when someone finds a person they can't imagine living without," he began, dropping to one knee, "they offer them this as a symbol of permanent partnership." Celine's electric blue eyes widened. "Is this what I think it is?" "Depends on what you think it is," Elias replied with a nervous smile. "If you think it's me asking you to marry me, then yes." "Even after I bought you as a pet?" she asked, half joking but with real vulnerability beneath. "Well, you did pay a premium price," he teased, "and I turned out to be quite the investment." She punched his arm lightly before pulling him to his feet and into a kiss that sent sparks of pink light dancing around them, a phenomenon unique to their biochemical synchronization that scientists still couldn't explain. "Yes," she whispered against his lips, 1,000 times yes. As word of their engagement spread across the planet, celebrations erupted spontaneously. The story of the human who came as a pet and stayed as a prince had captured the imagination of an entire world. That night, as they watched the twin moons rise over the pink mountains from Celine's, now their, balcony, Elias handed her a folded piece of actual paper, a rarity in the digital age. "What's this?" she asked, carefully unfolding it. "A letter," he explained. "Another Earth tradition. We write our feelings down sometimes." Celine read aloud. "To the princess who bought a pet and found a partner, across galaxies and bureaucracies, through mistakes and revelations, I fell from the wrong ship into the right arms. You classified me as exotic. I classified you as extraordinary. Like Earth to Aurexia, we were worlds apart, until we realized the distance between stars is nothing compared to the distance we'd go for each other. You held my hand in public and started a revolution. I kissed you and changed your world. Your grandmother nearly executed me. Mine nearly executed your planet. But here we are, proof that the universe's greatest mistake can become its most perfect match. From wrong flight to right future, from pet to partner, from exotic to essential. Forever yours, the human who stayed." A single tear, glowing faintly pink in the moonlight, traced down Celine's violet cheek. "You humans have a way with words," she whispered. "And you Aurexians have a way with everything else," he replied, pulling her close as the stars sparkled above them in a sky that no longer seemed alien to either of them. Dear listener, you've just witnessed how quickly the universe can transform a mistaken flight into a cosmic love story. Like Elias, sometimes we find ourselves in situations we never planned for, in the wrong place at exactly the right time. I wrote this tale to remind us that across any distance, whether interstellar or interpersonal, understanding can bloom. That sometimes what starts as a misclassification, exotic, pet, other, can evolve into something far more profound when we recognize the sentience in each other. The Bureau continues its work, and General Thunderborn still raises her eyebrows whenever Elias tells the story of his delivery to Celine. They visit Earth regularly for holiday dinners, where Celine has developed quite the taste for blackberry pie. The latest trend on Aurexia? Handwritten letters. Seems some traditions transcend stars, across galaxies and pages. The storyteller who watched,